Morning, guys. 3:48 in the morning, West Coast time. It's the 19th of September, 2024. It's Thursday. Thank God for that. The Weaver Agency of Roseman, California. We are here again. Oh, good Lord, he's back. Yeah, I'm back. Notice the lighting's different. Yesterday, um, one of the maintenance guys came out and actually get the bulbs replaced. So now I've got brighter bulbs. Uh, Makes a difference on the damn cockroaches, I'll tell you that much. They don't like it very much. Good. So what's happening with too much stuff? Came across a news story. There was an eviction happening in an apartment somewhere in LA. And this gentleman tried to put his plight on live YouTube, trying to tell people what's going on with him. He was getting evicted, but there was only so much of the story that they can only tell. The reporters were only getting the action, but they don't dig deep into the further situation. Why the guy got evicted in the first place? He was screaming he needed help. He needed to get a lawyer. They were silencing him left and right. Well, an eviction situation that you have, you still get help. You still get help. How do you get silenced? Nobody's silencing you. All you got to do is go out and get the help. It was out in Ventura County in Moore Park. So how are they silencing him? He had two or three other people. One of them wearing a protective helmet. And even this person gets arrested because they were getting evicted. Well, my brother and I got evicted out of a trailer home in Roseman, Kern County. We knew. We already knew ahead of time. We just weren't able to get the free assistance in time. We should have. We should have been talking to him about it. But we couldn't qualify. We couldn't even locate one in Kern County. Like the ones we knew out in LA County. LA County, we know there was a few other agencies. One of them we dealt with. That would have helped us out. But on Kern, we were screwed on that one. And we also screwed ourselves um, by not cooperating enough. I mean, hell, there was a situation regarding the trailer home. We signed out the low rent, low mortgages, and we got into the place. But it's like about 4 or 5 months after that, they started raising the rates. We should have gotten to a. We should have had a lawyer, or at least someone that actually had legal expertise looking at the thing, giving us play by play on this one. But we didn't think of it at the time. But we also felt like because we were in Kern, we didn't have the help. Yeah, because we were unable to get it. And if we had, it would have helped prevent us from making the mistakes that we did, like not paying. So we owed 5,000 in the end. It took us about nearly a year to get to that point, almost a year and a half within a time period of that to get us kicked out of our place, leaving a lot of our stuff behind. Hey, I know what it's like. I know what it's like. And there were options that we didn't take or chose not to. But I had a feeling, and so did my brother, we were screwed. And when we went through court, we paid them $1,000. They wanted 5,000. It wasn't enough. Should have kept the damn 1,000. We used it for moving somewhere else. We sold a lot of our stuff out. It just wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough. There was choices to be made. There's always choices and options. We may not like them, but they're there. It's not totally helpless. So I couldn't understand why this guy was not exercising, except he wanted help right there on YouTube, and it wasn't going to help immediately. Just record what was going on, and he's screaming and yelling that he needs help, he needs a lawyer. Nobody's helping him. Nobody's telling his side of the story. Well, give me a break. How long has this been going on up till the point? Surely you were talking about your situation for a long while now. People would have been hearing about it, right? I mean, you go to YouTube and then you do a live scream out. I could do a live scream out. But I'm not going to laugh about the situations happening when it comes down for rent or when it comes down for landlords. You work with these guys long enough, you try to understand their point of view next to your point of view. There's always some kind of common gray area out there. And sometimes you're not given that one. And some people feel pressured enough to walk away. I've seen it. I've seen it. I've also seen how a sneaky guy who worked in the county system, or city system actually, um, used it ultimately to get rid of my family within 3 days. Not 3 months or 6 months, but 3 days. We packed, we moved, we located another place, we moved into that on the third day. So the next day, the sheriff's department, or actually, sheriff's department or LAPD would come in and probably see that we weren't there anymore. But that was a rare instance for us. At least we had time to move, had time to pack and get the hell out of there, or find another place. Leave it to the last second. That's hard, I'll tell you. That's really hard. Having the sheriffs forcibly come through and throw your ass out. That's the hardest damn thing to deal with. Okay, me being said that. One thing I've got a bit of a burr on concerning about science and stuff. Now, I've tried to tell people in the past, and maybe I got to reiterate this conditional clause every time I do my videos and talking about stuff. I go through recollections, knowledge base, and I am no guru. I am not lettered academia, which means I don't have a credential to my name. What I understand, what I do know about, I'll learn about along the way and try to explain a few things. So, when I have people trying to predict that there's going to be a big earthquake coming in California because of the many swarms that we've had, I've got people out there who are claiming that they can tell interesting stories and documentaries and stuff, but do they have any academia behind them to back up their claims? Yes, the Pacific Rim of Fire is an active event area, and understanding geology 101, sometimes it goes over people's heads. I mean, through part of my class lectures, when I was going through them and listening to them, I'm learning what geology is all about. Rocks, minerals, how they're made, what they're made out of, what their density is, if they are soluble in water or not, what would make, what would break, learning about the Earth's creation, what's its structure, its geologic structure, and what are the forces that are driving the Earth to make changes all over the place. What are the changes? There have been, within 100 years, maybe more, that people have been trying to understand if the Earth was basically made out of an eggshell format, the surface of the Earth. How we get the rocks the way we are. Mountains range increased. Pressures built upon them that they increase their mass every so often, and every little bit counts. that there are continents out there squishing against each other, creating higher and higher mountainscapes. That we also have under the water, we have deformation of rocks going underneath the Earth's surface into the Earth's mantle, be heated, reformulated, and popping back up somewhere as new material or reformulated material. And because it said movements are happening, because of the molten activity, it produces shock waves. The shock waves we call quakes. And they shake us like crazy, and they scare the crap out of us. They'll damage old buildings, they'll damage new buildings. Every time we keep thinking that we've got the buildings safely secured and constructed properly, the Earth teaches us something else that we just haven't got the science down packed yet. And we don't have an active scanner out there or satellite systems keeping track of the constant Earth movements. Maybe predicting if we're going to be getting into an earthquake in one particular region, we can alert them for it. We're not there yet on the science level or the technological level there. I mean, once we get the Earth moving, the fault lines are actually generating that movement one way or another. Once we get that detection going, then we have to make an instantaneous alert to everybody in the area where these shock waves are going to hit. And believe me, they travel. They travel awfully damn fast. Or as fast as they can. If we have at least 1 or 2 seconds, that's just enough to go, huh? And then boom. If it's a little bit longer, and the duration of that energy wave is sufficient enough within the program's parameters, maybe we'll have at least 2 to 5 seconds to find some place to hide or take cover or take shelter or just hold on to your socks, boys and girls. So in that instance, we got the technology just for that. But not sophisticated enough where we're actually constantly bombarding the Earth with a lot of scanner beams and sensors and sensor relays to accurately plot a planet going through its motions. So do we have a fault line that's moving? Yeah, it's constantly moving. But the thing is concerning about Earth's movement, sometimes we don't even perceive it, and it's going at a rate. Now, I know for weeks I've been trying to focus on Rancho Palos Verdes. Been there once, I think, a long time ago. Trying to find a place. But, you bypass it once, and that's about it. It's part of the LA chain, okay, fine. And it's part of the LA landscape, it's part of the California landscape. But what scares the hell out of me is seeing and hearing about a slide. And for a long while, it had been creeping at its own pace. Movement. Slightly. But they knew about it for decades. People still built a life and civilization on top of it. And now the conniption fits. We built infrastructure on it. We built roads. We built power, water, sewage, gas to sustain a community on a slide. We thought we were okay on it. Until they started seeing more and more soil creep and things breaking apart. And now now with their equipments, they're looking at a slide that's actually active. More active because it's got more moisture. More moisture within the rocks. Helping the ground to move a lot more faster than what they can calculate. Or they actually do calculate. But it's going to be damaging infrastructure that they don't want to damage. For instance, how would you like to have a power pole that was standing straight, crooked, but kind of snaps the lines a little bit and causes a brief fire in an immediate area? Freaks out the fire department, freaks out the city council, freaks out everybody out there. Not to mention the utility companies out there who support things that said, oh, we can't do this because it's dangerous. That's worse. So when you start seeing the ground being deformed left and right. Our gas lines are buried underneath the ground. What's scary about having a gas line buried underneath the ground? Potential for explosions or fires. 94 had taught me that one personally. Seeing what happened up in Rinaldi and Balboa back in 94. You had water lines break. You also had gas lines break. Both of them were underneath, while the power is still above. And we could see this. We could see the neighborhood by car lights, and we'd see it by a gas main breaking and spewing out gas, gets ignited, and then you see this roar of flame right in the middle of the street, where water is still gushing around it, not even putting it out. Water and gas don't mix. It's an ethereal sight. It's on there on YouTube. You can locate it that one. But I've seen sights like that. That's just scary as hell. Photographic, yeah. But so scary as hell. People thought this was going to be the San Andreas ripping apart, and it wasn't. I've heard for decades, ever since I can remember as a kid, that they were starting to get into the geology. They were starting to understand more of the geology of California, and they were talking about the San Andreas. They were talking about the Andreas since Sylmar, and they had scientists and experts going throughout the fault lines up and down the coast, up and down the state of California and beyond. From the Baja all the way up until Washington, I think, somewhere in that area, just to see what's going on with the fault lines. And there are certain sections of California you can actually see the fault. I mean, you can actually see it. And scientists would do radioactive experiments, checking for half-life radiation, checking to see how old the rocks are, the deformation, and what can they estimate how long each eruption, or actually each movement, would happen. And I remember it was a Parkview that the scientists from USGS and Caltech would set up to monitor one town that constantly had swarm earthquakes. Every so often they'd get the 2, 3, maybe 4 in the magnitude, and they would record them. In fact, up and down the state of California, they'd do that. I think even beyond that, just so they can get the accurate readings of what's going on and have alert sensors on them, just so we know about the duration. They'd look at the charts. They'd look at the graphs. For years and decades, the geologists would pour over the information. The seismologists would be eating it up. But the one specialist that they hadn't said anything about, and I'm glad for that, but I'm still waiting for that one. They made a movie back in the 1990s called Volcano. Some people may think it was preposterous, but I don't know. Seeing how Mexico had its own volcano right in the middle of the damn city, or in the vicinity of the damn thing. Volcanoes can come anywhere, anytime. Enough molten rock burning through or melting the other rock around it. Enough pressure from underneath forcing that stuff to be buoyant and go up to the surface and then erupt. I looked at the Hawaiian chain islands, including the main island. and seeing how Kilauea kept bursting up like crazy. Try to keep track of what was Mount Etna and its fury there, and a few other hot spots. And then there's also Iceland. And then there's Iceland. How the lava is going through the old lava tubes, burning them through, and then forcing eruptions here and there. It's like seeing a gas line. You see the gas mains underneath. And every so often there'd be a burst, and you'd see the burst going through the surface, and then there'd be a fire here, and a fire there, and a fire there. Well, basically that's what lava to me is fire coming from underneath the earth, except it's superheated rock with gases and micro pieces of volcanic ash that are deadly and dangerous to people's lungs and stuff. Here's a fallacy of a movie that drove me crazy on this one when I started studying geology a little bit. And then I watched the film just for its enjoyment purposes, but then I kept trying to think, how the hell is sulfur good for the lungs? I'm watching Disney's Island on the Top of the World. And in this film, a banker is looking for his son on top of the world, literally, or close to it anyway. Son was getting sick and tired of what was happening at home, so he's going out for his own adventure. Go on a whaling expedition. Go find a lost. He was going to find some dead whales, a graveyard, and the bones would be ivory, and bones would be profitable to people back home. He was going to make money and show his father off, but then he gets himself into a jam with a ancient Celtic Vikings, not Celtic Vikings, Norwegian Vikings, I think, living on an island, enclosed by volcanism, by treacherous winds and cold, but they live in a paradise for hundreds of years, and they would have generations. No technology except for the technology they had, which was primitive to what the theme of the movie was, like 1910, 20, somewhere in that time. And our intrepid explorers would go on a blimp, elongated blimp, and with a mad captain and a dog and an engineer, they would travel to Greenland, find one particular place, exchange crew a little bit, continue their pathway until they found this island at the top of the world. Crew gets separated. The main cast, two of them anyway, gets goes through an adventure or trying to find this place, and they find a paradise. And then they discover that their son's about to be killed because of the two guys just popped in, and that's what's going to assign the guy's death warrant. But the guy's already in love with a woman. It was something for a show. Mindless sometimes and exciting at the same time. And during this thing, while they're making escape, trying to get away from this island at the top of the world, they go through a volcanic field. Volcano. You got a vent over here, vent over there, vent over there, and you got gases all around. And one of the heroes goes, sulfur is good for the lungs. I heard that. I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, no, no, no. And they managed to make it to a point. They get captured again, taken back over to the chief elder. Thought there was a villain in the show that they actually had to fight against, and he ends up getting destroyed somehow. And at the end, we have one guy of the original expedition stays behind because he's an archaeologist and a linguist, and he's enjoying the Viking way, so he wants to live there for all his life. Everyone else goes back to civilization. I'd watched this movie when I was a young kid. I didn't even understand half this thing in the first place, but I watched this movie and I thought it was cool. It just stuck with me for a hell of a long while until I started watching it decades later when I had actually had it on streaming. But every time I kept saying about the volcanism happening in that glacial ice, and then you got volcanic ash and lava. In reality, in reality, that heat would have been melting everybody. Getting in contact with those vents, and what's worse, with no life support, with no air tank to keep the stuff away from their lungs. There is something called volcanic glass. They're microshards. They're very thin, light in the air when they're blown around of silica, of basaltic nature. Once you embed into your lungs, it's you're dead. This stuff is going to stay in there and make your breathing a living hell afterwards. So every time they kept seeing scientists getting closer to uh, volcanic uh, movement, when they have the lava flowing on the ground, the pyroclastics will get is bad enough anyway with that volcanic glass and that ash, because that's the stuff will kill you eventually. But it's nasty stuff. It's nasty stuff. But the heat itself from the rocks itself moving at a rate. Yeah, people could try driving past the damn thing and race out of the area. But I was seeing the damages happening to kill away into portions of Hawaii when they started having lava spills and lava slides happening. I'm seeing this molten, crusty looking stuff. You think it's safe enough to stand on? Not really. When it starts being encrusted on the top, it's not strong enough until it's entirely solidified and it's not moving anywhere. But if that stuff, the crusty stuff, is still moving fast, it means there's a lot of melted rock underneath, acting as the lubricant for the top portion to keep going. And because of the force of the earth of the stuff that's coming up, it's forcing that stuff to go. I was watching this on television regarding Hawaii, the big island going through this stuff. It was just maddening. And this is how islands make. And long after, long after we see a lush area starting to grow and starting to flourish, seeds get transplanted, and we see repopulation of the plant life. Nature finds a way to survive and thrive. Even in the wildfire situations we've been having out here in California and everywhere else, nature finds a way to get itself re-energized. I had seen in the canyons, traveling between point A and point B from the San Fernando Valley and the Antelope Valley, California, that in my many excursions with my brother, when my brother was still alive, God bless his soul and God rest his soul, uh, we would see the life. They would be paying attention to the traffic. I'm looking at the scenery. We happen to go on a train, and we see some of the burnt areas. I'd also seen some of the areas getting repopulated with green. Some of the dead stuff is getting covered over by the green and also by life. I always get a kick out of that one. All the devastation we have, and life still goes on. Life still fights a way to survive and continue on. Whether or not we're actually going to be getting any major earthquakes or not, they still haven't decided. Actually, it's not a decision among humans. It's who's ever got the celestial control over the damn planet of what place is going to have a major quake or not, because it's out of our hands utterly. Do we know if we're going to get a major quake? From our own predictions, what the scientists are struggling on a constant basis with all the material they've got, and they're still trying to develop new technology to get more data, to make a better thesis, better hypothesis, a better guess. Till that time, we're guessing all the damn time. We can get a better weather predictions with our satellites tracking weather patterns than we can geologic movement. We're just not there yet. So I can't say, from my personal point of view, if we're going to get another big one or not. I don't know enough. Honest to God, I don't know. I don't know. And the people who claim that they know better, I don't listen. If they think they got a surefire way, or they're going to start telling me that meteorological conditions are earthquake weather, I'm going to be laughing in their asses on that one. It's never been proven that there's earthquake weather. Earthquakes and earth movement happens regardless of what conditions we have concerning about the atmosphere. When it comes down for slides, that's one thing, because that's not an earthquake. That's a slide. An earthquake, you're talking about shifting a rock underneath on a sudden energetic push. You got sections of the ground underneath, and sometimes measurable on the top, that the earth is constantly moving. Move up, move sideways, move whatever they can. And sometimes we can't perceive it until it's a sudden jerk. If it's a slow creep, we may see the effects in our lifetime, or we will see the effects in our immediate time. Earth is a constant motion, not easily to predict. We can try. We can try. We know that continents are formed. We know that islands are formed. Islands that we see are hotspots, volcanic hotspots. Hawaiian Islands, I make a point out of. The Philippines, I make a point out of. Caribbean, I don't know, but I know they get earthquakes. I know they get earthquakes because we've had them. In my lifetime, they had a lot of them out there. And they have forced evacuations and they've forced devastation. It's just how it is. I like science. Don't get me wrong. I like science. I grew up science fiction and science in my head. I just wasn't good at the numbers. I wasn't good at crunching numbers at that point. I'm still not. I'm not good at the mathematical expressions they would put on there, or what's the chemical natures of some of these rocks. I know that when I'm looking at pictures and understanding caverns, how they're formed. Lava tubes are one thing. But when you actually have moisture in a rock eating away at the minerals, and you see caverns that are incredible to look at because you have minerals that water has been trying to dissolve for a long while. They start forming these stalactites, and they drip mineral water on top and building these stalagmites. Carlsbad Cavern is one of those famous places. Here's the thing. When people are visiting these caverns, especially Carlsbad, I think, you don't bring anything but water. You don't. Someone brought in a bag of Cheetos and left a discarded Cheeto and bag behind. They didn't think any of it. Who would care? And the problem is, there's a ecosystem, a balanced ecosystem in there. Disturb that thing, and you don't know what the hell's going on afterwards. The rangers, I think, had to find a person to find them on that one. and locate the bag and material and get it out of there, because it would start up a growth that they could not stop or deal with in the first place. Bacteriological. They wanted to keep the pristine away from human intervention or activity in there. Activity is one thing when you're walking around with a water bottle. You're drinking water only. You're not drinking soda, because if you're drinking soda, you have material necessary for bacterial growth. That's what I've been coming across these days. And that was something. They had to dig up the thing again, dig up the material, dispose of it, just so they can keep the ecological balance going in the caverns. They didn't want anything else to disturb them. They didn't want anything else to mutate in there. So I'm going back of Cheetos in there. Shit. How does that grab you? Well, people will talk about politics and try to point fingers at each other and trying to tell you how to be afraid. Both sides are doing the same damn shit. They're trying to be very good at it too, and fact checking each other on this one. It's like a free for all. Town is threatened. They had to have National Guard troops to come in there to protect them because of statements issued by one particular side saying that we've got this group of people coming over here and they're causing you more hell over here, and here comes the phone calls and does the word salad on people. They're listening, they're freaking, they're having conniption fits, and the police chiefs and the mayor is having a conniption fit on this one. The state governor sends in the troops to protect. It shouldn't happen in the first place. But you hear these people coming in going to be mutilating their animals and using them for food. Don't you understand? It's legitimate. No, it ain't. They're carrying it out. Don't you understand? I gotta throttle you by the neck and make you fearful about these things. That's both sides, by the way. Mm-hmm. I would have more fear, not of human condition, but of the earth itself, or of anything else that would cause me harm. That I would have an issue with. If we get into earthquakes and they're sneaky and subtle and sudden, and those things happen, I don't know whether or not I'm going to be alright, or I'm going to have an earth connection fit on this one. Or, even worse than that, homeless. Remember talking about the 1994 earthquake? Northridge? My brother was convinced that we were about a few blocks away from ground zero, from where the epicenter started. We were seeing the devastation happening outside. As the shock wave extended, we were seeing more and more of the damage. We had our damage in our neighborhood. I live in a street called Clare, and that was between Saticoy and Sherman Way, right by Tampa, and Van Alden. So in that section in there, it was said, and I don't know who the hell was making an accusation there, that assertion actually. My brother caught on to it and told me about it. That we were close to the ground zero. That we were close to the hidden thrust fault that just shook, just moved. We saw ground deformation, slightly, but we didn't know that damn fault was there. Nobody knew the damn fault was there. You don't know whether or not you got a fault underneath your feet or not. There's no way to know until the action happens. And then you know. And I saw the devastations of it. I didn't think I'd see devastation of an earthquake until 94. I survived 1971, Sylmar, in an apartment complex at the time. And the apartment complex at the time was built up to codes of its time. And I didn't see it get crumbling from the earthquake, but it was getting damaged one way or another. But we didn't get red tagged. We didn't. I don't know if we got yellow tagged or not. I don't know if they had a tagging system during that time. I do know now they have tagging systems. But we didn't have a collapse. At least not that we've seen anyway. We had an underground garage. People would go down by stairs or by ramp, get to their cars, and drive out. We only had one ramp in and one ramp out. So the back end. But I remember that earthquake, and it was scary and terrifying as a kid. Holding on for dear life on a bed, as two beds are clanging against each other in an apartment complex, and getting myself pulled off, put into a hallway, and just wait till shaking got over with. And then after that, hearing the people's yells and screams and everything else afterwards. That's what happened way at 94 as well. But these things I remember. These things are remembered. Anyway, I had to get this off my chest. I know the political crap out there, people are still trying to make you fearful about anything and everybody. I was thinking there's a lot more things other than human activity can scare the living crap out of you worse and can kill you. And I got a lot more respect for nature than I do for human activity. That being said,